Welcome to Courageous Conviction. Remember that Jeff and I record each Saturday 5 episodes. So please hit the like button, subscribe so you catch all 5 episodes. We usually start out with one theme or topic. We have to go down a lot of rabbit holes to really understand it. Some things are more sensitive than others right now, what's going on in the world. So hit the like button, subscribe, and let's jump into this video. Walter, continue on the video, please.
I will ensure that they will have faith in time of need. I wish the brethren to be diligent in their affairs here, to be honest, faithful, prudent, and upright, and try to receive the spirit of the gospel. I am ready to acknowledge that this people have the gospel, that they are a good people. They are the best we know of upon the earth. At the same time, there is a great lack with regard to the sentiments of many of them, with regard to their understanding, their views, the proportions, the degree and quality of the spirit they are in possession of. All ought to seek to know the mind and will of the Lord, and when they know it, they will be taught that the interest of this people is the interest of the Lord, and that all we do is for His glory. This is not all. It is likewise for our own benefit. And when we learn the principles of the gospel perfectly, we shall learn that our interest is one, that we have no correct individual interest separate from this kingdom. If we have true interest at all, it is in the kingdom of God. If we truly possess and enjoy anything, it is in...
All right, so I think that's important to talk about what Brigham's mentioning here, that if our interests really, truly is of God, then it's in edifying His kingdom. And I have found, and I find this in my own family, and even with what we're going through today, that this society has become so difficult to live in. Inflation it appears it's out of control now, and that's concerning going forward. But what's even more concerning is it is very tough to make ends meet. I know that, for example, myself, I am working twice as hard as I worked when I first started my business 30 years ago. And yet I am not able to advance and get ahead at all. Within 2 years of starting my business 30 years ago, I had already been able to expand the business into multiple crews. Things are so expensive now, even for me to try to bring on an employee. It's so expensive that I cannot expand into one crew. And yet we're not able to get ahead because of my limitations of what I'm able to do as a father, as a husband, as somebody taking care of the home, preparing for the future, trying to prepare for what else I think is coming, and trying to maintain this business and keep it up and running. With so many laws changing every day, especially in these blue states, it makes it very, very difficult to run a business. Now, my point being in this is that you get so wrapped up in this. The missionaries were over here last night. We were talking about this. They were talking about, how we do these things and the Spirit's with us and guide us. I said, elders, with all due respect, that's easier said than done. It's easy to do while you're in the mission field. It's easy to do when you're living at home with your parents. When you go home and start going to school at BYU, it's going to be somewhat easier to do still because you're going to be around those people. You go to BYU, you go to a different school, and life starts to set in, and you got to pay bills, and you want to get married, and the financial stress starts to come on. Then that's when the challenge comes in to maintain the spirit with one and have that spirit of truth with each other, right? And the idea of that is also then, and if we're truly wanting to edify the kingdom of God, then we'll truly want to help build up the church. My problem, for example, what I'm finding is I worked with a great stake president, but the bishops that we worked with didn't want the help of the state. They wanted to do things their way and only their way. The spirit of truth wasn't with them. And during COVID especially, the system of order in the church got thrown out. And instead of that being from the top down, going down to the keys, remembering the keys are with the prophet, and then they extend down to the stake president and the bishop, and then there's some keys in the ward. We won't go into that. But as we're talking about leadership, the 70, area 70, do not hold keys. That comes directly from the prophet. Now that's extended over to the apostles, and the apostles can extend those keys down when they give those keys to the stake president. But you saw this overstepping of authority a lot with the 70 and area 70 directly communicating with the bishops, and then just telling the stake presidents what the communication was to the bishops. And it wasn't the stake presidents being able to use their keys on an area-to-area basis as it should be. Everything was just kind of thrown out the window. Now, why am I saying this? Because you're seeing a lot of bishops that don't allow you to come in to work in the kingdom of God. They curtail you, or they control you. My current bishop likes to have a thumbs on everything. He wants to be in part of it all. And one thing he said to me once, he says, well, I want to make sure it's done right. Well, that is a very narcissistic way of looking at approaching this. And I tell you what happens is that people don't want to do their calling then. If you've got bishops that are too controlling and don't allow one to grow, because we have to have growth. We want to grow. We feel good when we grow. That's the Spirit saying you're doing the right thing. You're gaining intelligence and you're gaining joy from doing this service. But when somebody else comes in and just wants to say, no, I don't like that, when it's not really their authority to do it, they're overstepping their authority. When that assignment's been made, somebody's been called, and they're given that authority to run that, to manage that calling, then they have that authority to do that calling. And so long as they're within the doctrine, so long as they're with doing their calling, then let them go. Let the Spirit run with them. Pray that the Spirit is with them. Fast for them. Ask them, how can I help you? Instead of coming and saying, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, you're going to do this, this, and this. And that's how I want it done. And that's what a lot of bishops are doing today. So it's very difficult today for a lot of us to want to rally up and say, I want to build the kingdom of God, when our bishops aren't letting us, or our stake presidents aren't letting us, or the area 70 are not letting us. And we're not doing anything that we shouldn't be doing. Before, we have personal callings. And it's as if in the church, if you don't receive a call directly from the bishop, then that's not a calling. Every one of us has a personal calling that the bishop has no idea about. Excuse me. Every one of us have a purpose here on this earth. Every one of us have been sent here to do something, our part, our little part, to help build the kingdom for our Father. Now, that can be callings and things of that nature, and sometimes those come around. But I'm going to be honest about the callings. You know, the callings about 33% of the time really are inspired. Another 33% of the time, they're pretty much out of necessity. The other 33%, they're because that was my buddy, right? I worked with him. I know we can work together. And so those decisions are made that way. However, we each have our own purpose here on this earth, and we really need to dedicate ourselves to that purpose. What is our purpose? And it doesn't, I don't feel it necessarily has to mean that like right now, I'm just going to focus on my purpose. I'm at a current ward where the bishop is difficult. The bishopric are just yes men, nice guys. They're not bad men. Just the bishop is about 2 generations out of us of paradigm. He's like, we evolved. He's the one with the keys. I can't do anything about that, but I can't do anything in the ward either. And so it came to a point where I couldn't work in my callings because I was always just being watched or being censored, or I was being told this is how it's to be done, or I would just be stepped over by the bishop and he would just come in and do things. I would show up with one plan and he had another plan going already with other leaders that he had organized. Those kind of things undermine the desire for members to want to stand up and work, especially if the apathy that exists. Nobody else is working. So then if I'm going to go out and try to work and my bishop's going to be this tyrannical type of a man, then why would I want to? Okay, so I want to focus then on me. That sounds selfish, but no, it's not. Remember in the airplane? I'll offer this to you. And they do the safety regulations when you're flying. And they say, you know, if the masks drop, put your own mask on first, then help the people next to you, like children or people next to you. Because if you don't have the oxygen yourself, you're not going to have the strength to be able to help anybody else. So we really should take a time right now, I think, and get back to find out what's our purpose. Why am I here on this earth? What do I need to do to help build the kingdom of God and make that my life and our family build around that? And that's what we're trying to do here. And it's a challenge. It's been a challenge trying to get my wife to buy in on the same visions and the same idea, same desire, because it requires a lot of work. It means leaving that and actually going back to work. And a lot of people just don't want to work today. They just don't want to work. The principle of work is like being thrown out with the bathwater. And what is coming from over the borders are not workers necessarily, are more people that want to just come and take from those that have already worked. I'm not going to get into that today. That's a fact. I will stand behind that fact. And if anybody just wants to open their eyes and see it, and I know that from evidence and from experience and my personal experience of 20 years living there and studying these cultures and working with these people, some good people. And those good people now are stirring up to start to come. I can see that much now. I know that there's a former bishop I worked with, a really great guy, who contacted me that day and said, I'm coming. I'm going to come across the border. I'm going to come in as they're coming, and I'll be seeing you at the end of August. And I thought to myself, well, if you're here, great. Come see me. He's a good guy. He understands the Constitution. I don't have a problem with him. Well, the problem I have is all the others that are coming aren't that way. But I think you're going to start seeing that now. You're starting to see that even when my stake president down there's a good guy who's saying, look, this is legitimate. They're allowing people to come through. So maybe now is the time that Brigham talked about, is that opening. And maybe now is the time we come. That gathering, my friends, that gathering. The gathering of the stake is what has been talked about from our general authorities. But the gathering under the tent is also taking place. And that's forming in those red states I offer. That's prophecy. That's something else we should go into that nobody's talking about right now, and keep waiting for Connor Boyack and some of the others to jump on that, about that gathering under the tent right now. And what's the filter is the U.S. Constitution. And that's what's happening in the red state. I thank you for being with us on Courageous Conviction. Remember, there's 5 episodes each week that we put out. We have to go down a lot of rabbit holes, so stay with us, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and don't miss tomorrow's episode on Courageous Conviction.